Welcome to Uniquely Female Troubles. My name is Leslie Wells. I called the in the thumbnail. I called this "saying the quiet part out loud about marriage," and what I mean by that is I'm going to talk about something that we don't talk about very often about being in a bad relationship, a bad romantic relationship, whether it's marriage, living together, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And it's not that it's like not that this isn't about, well, it's bad because this person's cheating on the other person, or it's bad because this person's never home, or it's bad because this person's abusive or addicted to drugs or whatever. It's about what's going on inside of you. And if this stuff is going on inside of you, like it was going on inside of me when I was married, then it's a really huge red flag that something is big time wrong. And the first one I wrote down is you never miss him when he's gone. It's a relief when he's gone. And when he comes home, it's like, oh, it's like, and so my ex never thought he had to tell me where he was, what he was doing, or when he would be home. And he was supposed to be home. He got off work at 5, and I always had dinner ready at 5:30, unless we were gonna go somewhere or something like that. But normally I had it on the table at 5:30. And he came home at 5:30. When he came home at 5:30, but there were days he came home at 11:30, and there were days he came home at 9:30 or 8 p.m. or just whenever. And I stopped. I did not wait for him. I ate, and then after we had our daughter, we ate dinner, and I just fixed him a plate and just cleaned up the kitchen and was done with it. And whenever he got home and he could heat his food up in the microwave or not eat it or whatever. And so, even though I knew he was big time disrespecting me, I and I shouldn't have been okay with it, I was okay with it. Because an evening without him there was an evening without fighting, and an evening without drama, and an evening without unreasonable demands. And so it was what I really did want. And so I didn't say much. He would come home and I'd be like, "Where were you?" And he was, "Oh, I just ran into some people and we started hanging out and talking and whatever." So it's like if you don't even want to be around the person you're with, that's pretty bad. You don't enjoy their company. So, and then another one is I didn't want him to meet my friends. I eventually made a whole set of friends that had nothing to do with him. And he didn't ever met most of them, but sometimes he did meet some of them. I did not want him around my friends for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons was he sometimes told people things about me that I didn't want other people to know. Another one is he made stupid, embarrassing jokes. Like one of his favorite jokes was to say, the day I was born, all the other babies in the hospital died. And then people would say, what? Why did that happen? And then he said, well, I was so beautiful that all the nurses didn't take care of the other babies. They were all staring at me and taking care of me, and so they died and I lived. That's supposed to be a joke, but it's not very funny. And then the other thing is, like, if I have friends and we have our own particular things we're talking about that don't have anything to do with him and what he's interested in, within 5 minutes of him showing up, everybody was talking about what he wanted to talk about. Because he's just that kind of person, and he knows how to make people laugh, and he has a lot of friends. But it's like I don't want everything to always revolve around him and what he wants to talk about. I hear him talk about that stuff all the time. And when I'm with my friends, he's either going to embarrass me or he's going to monopolize everything and make it all about him and what he's interested in. And when you realize you're married to somebody that you don't even want to introduce to your friends, that is a huge red flag. The other thing was, have you ever heard of the saying that somebody sucks all the oxygen out of the room? Well, that was the way it was. It was like all the oxygen, all the time, all the attention. If that person's around, they're the center of attention. I was always on the periphery. And it was just he was the center of attention. He knew how to make himself the center of attention, and he knew how to like talk to people and be funny. And so they enjoyed talking to him, and without even realize, the other people didn't realize that it was that way. I mean, I don't think they, I should say, I don't think they stopped and thought about it, about how, okay, we were talking about this stuff with this whole group of people, and now this person showed up, her husband showed up, and now all of us are kind of crowded around him, listening to him talk, and we're laughing and we're having a good time, so we don't object to it, but it's now kind of like us being his audience. And I got sick of that. Another thing is they make bad things worse. And so if you have to go through a crisis, don't you want to be able to lean on your partner? What if the person you're with makes everything bad a lot worse? That's how it was. And I'll just give you I'll give you a couple of examples. We got robbed once. And so, I came home from work and somebody had trashed our house. And somebody inside the house had moved a chair in front of the door, so I could only open it a couple inches. And then I pushed it in, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so so we went through that together, and he did not like my emotional reaction to it, which I had very little reaction to it. And he was totally freaked out about it. And we had to clean that mess up, and then the police come and they make more mess because they took fingerprints and they left this like greasy black dust all over everything, and it was really frustrating. And all the stuff that got stolen was his, like his wedding ring that belonged to his dad. Like, I didn't have a wedding ring. That was on my finger. And he had guitars, and he's a musician. He's a really good musician. And they stole that. He had an expensive stereo that really was his. I wasn't even allowed to touch it. And it was the kind that's in a case and has all these different components. And so, no, wait. No, okay. No, that was the one we got with the insurance money from the less fancy ones that they stole. But like, it was kind of like music was his thing and books were my thing. So even though I used the stereo all the time, I like to play music. I listen to cassettes, books on tape, and I used to listen to sermons a lot back then too. It was still kind of his. And so when he saw that I wasn't having much emotional reaction, he chalked that up to the fact that they stole his stuff and not my stuff. Well, it's not really about what they take. It's about the fact that they've invaded your home and your safe place doesn't feel like a safe place anymore. Well, that home already didn't feel like a safe place. It felt safe from strangers, but it wasn't safe for me in that place. And I had a bad habit. Well, I have a bad habit of going numb when feelings can be overwhelming. And that's something I deal with. And neither one of us knew it at the time, but that's what was happening. I just kind of went numb because it is really scary to know that strangers are walking around your house, going through your stuff, throwing your papers and underwear and everything on the living room floor, trying to find valuables. So that was one, that I got accused of not caring because they stole his stuff and they didn't steal my stuff. Another one was our niece was born, and she was born on her due date. Nobody knew there was anything wrong with her. But when she was born, there was something really bad wrong with her. And they thought she was going to die in the next 3 hours. So we rushed down to the hospital. And and our baby was only 6 weeks old. So we rushed down to the hospital. And it was terrible. The baby was the color of a piece of gray construction paper. I've never seen that ever before or since. I don't ever want to see it again. Then they decided they might be able to save her, and then all this stuff went into motion. She got transferred to this hospital in another part of Florida. They sent a medical jet and a team, and they they transported her up there. Well, we were there, a while. And so he did something really nice for me. He bought me a donut for breakfast. And I thanked him, but I didn't eat it because I had, at that time too, and now, I have to be really careful about having hypoglycemic episodes. And one of the best ways to have a hypoglycemic episode is to eat something really sweet first thing in the day and then not eat anything else for a while. And like, I didn't have any other food there, and I knew I would feel horrible if I ate the donut. Well, he came back and he got mad at me because I hadn't ate it. I hadn't eaten the donut. And I tried to explain to him, but he was just angry. And then when we left the hospital, I mean, I was devastated. We didn't know what was going to happen, which she ended up dying 23 days later, unfortunately. And like I said, our baby was 6 weeks old. Well, I didn't even know this, but it turns out he had told his friends at work that he was going to bring the baby in that day. He was actually already off that day. And so he started driving to his work without even talking to me about it. I'm like, where are we going? I want to go home. I mean, I was very upset. I was crying. It was so sad. Well, then he told me that, that he promised them he would bring the baby in because nobody at his work had seen the baby yet. And I'm like, they're not going to keep you to that promise after what happened to our niece, obviously. I'm like, I don't want to go there. Well, that didn't matter because he kept driving and we went there and we went in and we showed off our baby and I tried to have a big fake smile plastered to my face. And yeah, so that's what I mean about making bad things worse. And then they make good stuff less good. And every time we went on a vacation, we had a lot of fights. It was like if we did anything really, it always wasn't, there was no reason for all that conflict. And then also theme parks were a big issue between us because like I'm terrified of rides. I won't ride them. And he wants to ride rides and I tell him, go ahead, ride the rides. I don't care. I don't care if you go on a ride cuz like I always had a book with me because I knew wherever I went with him I was going to spend a lot of time waiting on him. So I always brought a book everywhere I went. And I'm like, just go ahead and go, I'll sit here. I had no problem with that. But he said he didn't want people to think he was a loser who came to a theme park by himself. So he couldn't be seen on the roller coaster alone. So whatever. So that caused a lot of conflict. So like we went theme parks, went to like on vacations, holidays. For some reason, those things always caused a lot of conflict. And then another thing is it's vacation when he goes on a trip. And I know, especially like if you have kids, I know like a lot of people really miss their spouse when they go on a trip. And if you feel like, yay, he's gone, that he's going to be gone a week, so that's like a week vacation for me. Even though you're home, you still have to take care of your child. You still have to do all that stuff that you normally do. It's not a vacation, but it's a vacation from the most demanding thing in your life, the other person. That is a huge red flag. And if you think about unaliving yourself all the time, that is a huge red flag. And I did. Also, I was sick all the time. I had bronchitis, I had stomach viruses. I was just sick all the time. And I'm not anymore. So that's a huge red flag. And then the biggest red flag is that when you finally leave, you don't feel sad at all. Maybe you're angry about all the bad stuff that happened that caused you to leave, but you don't feel sad. Like when I finally left, I felt this immense wave of relief go over me. I was never sad about it. And he'd been in my life for the last 25 years, and I never missed him for 1 second. And so when you don't like being around the person you're with, when you're happy they're gone, you're bummed out when they come home, you don't want them around, you don't like them, you don't enjoy their company, you're miserable, so miserable that you want to unalive yourself to get away from them, then those are huge red flags. And a lot of people, myself included, and unfortunately a lot of other people too, live that way for years and years and years. And there's no reason to. there's just no reason to live that way. And so I wanted to say the quiet part out loud. I wanted, if you feel this, if anybody feels this way, there's something very wrong with the relationship. There was something very wrong with our relationship. And yeah, you don't have to look outside yourself, say, well, he does this, he does this, he does this, or she does this, she does this, she does this. You don't even have to look outside yourself. You can look within and ask yourself, how do I really feel about this person? Is my life going to be better with them or without them? And if the answer is it'll be radically better without them, then that kind of is a really good indication of what to do about the relationship. So, and at least I'm not saying make a decision. I would never want anybody to make a decision about major decision what to do about their life based on something I say. It would definitely be a thing of getting help from a professional and seeing what the problem is and if it can be fixed and stuff like that. But yeah, it's nothing. If you feel all those things, it's nothing like a normal husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. It's just not. So, oh, there was one more that I forgot to write down. I hated who I was when I was with him. I hated who I was. I was irritable. I was angry all the time. I was upset all the time. I was absolutely miserable when he was around. And so he brought out the worst in me. And one thing that I've heard over and over and over, that when you're with the person you love and the person like your soulmate, that they bring out the best in you. And that's one of the things you love about them, that you can be your best self when you're around them. I was never my best self when I was around him. Not at all. I was my worst self. I hated myself. I felt like a complete failure because I couldn't live up to what I thought were God's standards of how a wife should be. And I definitely didn't live up to his standards of how he thought a wife should be. And I was just angry all the time, which I had every reason to be angry. Anger is not a bad thing. Anger is a thing that lets you know somebody is doing something wrong to you. They're crossing your boundaries. They're violating you in some kind of way. That's why we have anger. It's not a sin to feel angry. The Bible even says, be angry and sin not. So it is possible to feel the emotion of anger without sinning. Although I wasn't very successful at that. I wasn't happy with myself the way I reacted to the anger I felt towards him. I felt like I was a failure. And looking back, I feel like what I expected of myself would have been like superhuman. And it's not even possible for a human being to be like that. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about this stuff. I mean, sometimes the quiet part does need to be said out loud, because we need to just be honest and open and tell the truth. So thank you for watching this. Please like it, and please leave me a comment. Let's turn this from a monologue into a dialogue, and subscribe if you like this channel, and I appreciate you very much. Bye.